Welcome in part 2 of making this shaft, and this is where we are so far. All that's left to do here is to cut the squares on both sides and drill a hole for a split pin. But first I would like to thank John in Australia, because John, he sent me a collection of tabs in the sizes that are not really common here in our metric country. There is a 3/8 UNC, I suppose, because that's marks on it, and then a 10 by 1 and a 10 by 125 made in Australia, and then there's a 4 times the M8 by 1, normally is the most used is 125. This is a fine thread 8 by 1 that I didn't have before. Also made in Australia and sent to me by, forgot your name already, John. So John, again, thank you very much. The idea that these things come from you from the other side of the planet. The world really is a village. Before we start cutting, maybe it's a good idea to do some thinking, because the square in this hand wheel isn't square. There's a 0.5 millimeter of difference, and this side the square is 1 millimeter bigger than the other side, so it's a tapered square. So there's gonna be a little bit of setup challenge, small one. And this square for the gear, same problem, is not really square, but at least the not really square is straight, no taper. Now to set it up, I can clamp, where's my other part here? I can clamp my piece in the vise and then start cutting here and here at the same time, but I will not have the angle. That's not gonna work. I could make the square on this side, very easy, put this side in the vise in the right angle, make the square complete, and then when I want to start on this one, there's no way anymore to hold my part the way it should be held, because squeezing on this one isn't gonna work, because I have to cut here and holding it here. This part is too small, there will be too much flex. So let's think a bit. I think the easiest way to cut these squares is to hold it first here and then cut this one, and then you can hold it on this perfectly fine surface here and cut the other side. And of course I mean doing this here on the milling machine and using the dividing head. But of course I don't have a dividing head, and now I think about it, I don't even have a milling machine. So I installed the thing here in the shaper, of course. And as you can see, there is a lot of stick out here. The thing is held in a vise right here. And this stick out, that's not gonna work. Here we need support. And I think the easiest way to do so is to use, for example, a machinist jack or adjustable parallels. But I don't have adjustable parallels or a machinist jack. So I came up with a very simple and cheap solution. I took a piece of scrap, just a piece of something, and instead of cutting it parallel, I gave it a slight angle, just to put it right here. And of course my piece of scrap was a bit too small. Take a parallel, put it right here, and then slide my scrap piece in until you feel it's wedged. Machinist jack. One down, 3 more to go. Take it out of here. And this was number 3. One more to go. But first, and before everyone jumps on his keyboard to write in the comments that if I set this surface square, like this, my bottom surface is also square, parallel, whatever. And if I use my support block that is in an angle, of course it's not going to support on the surface, but only on a line. And that is correct. But who cares? Almost. Because of the wear in the square here, the surfaces were a little bit rounded. And that's why, of course, it didn't work. And after a little touch of this primitive kind of thing, now, as you can see, it fits. To cut the square on the other side, of course, for the hand wheel here, I think I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna cut this square straight, so not in a taper, because this hand wheel is just slightly tapered, and it's more because of the wear than because of the original concept. So I will give this thing a good cleanup, because it's really dirty, and of course also a little touch of this kind of thing, and then make my shaft square, just a little bit like I did for the gear. That's all. Back to the shaper. The first phase is finished, and now of course it's really easy to set it up for the next, because I'm pinching here on this square, and of course it will automatically copy the square on this side. Ready for action. It works! All that's left to do now is to drill a hole here somewhere to secure the nut. But I'm not going to do this for the moment, because I would like to find a better nut than this one. This one works, but you know, I think we can do better than this. But of course here I don't have. So all that's left to do is to go to the depot and see what we can find. And you're invited. And this is the patient where I'm working on for the moment. But let me first turn on the lights, and then I can show you inside, because dark in there. If just like me you don't have the key, use your magical touch. Even with the lights on, it is dark in here, but I'm sure you will get the idea. This black thing here, I will bring you closer, is the main shaft that goes to the brake system. And then this one is the little gearbox I refuse to work on. that comes of course here. And in the gearbox comes the brand new shaft I made, comes in here. Noisy. And then of course you have the hand wheel. And there are two reasons why I'm not gonna put all this together today. Reason one, and the most obvious, is that this piece of wood here is completely rotten and needs to be replaced before, because of course all the rest is mounted on here. And the second reason is that this gear, out of the gearbox, there is a lot of play. So I have to invent something here, and I don't want to make a new shaft. We'll see. And while we're here, I would like to take the opportunity to answer some of your questions. And I even took some notes. And one of the questions was, isn't it possible to put the hand wheel vertical instead of horizontal, like for example on this rail car? And indeed, it could be easier, but just like in this one, the whole thing is mounted against the wall, so no choice, we have to put it at 90 degrees. And you stuck on it. It works. In last week's video, you could see that I wanted to use a piece of a truck steel bar. It's a part of a truck, but there was a big crack in it, so I didn't, and I used something else. And a few people asked me about this crack. Now, this crack was original. I mean, the crack was formed while the part itself was forged, and because of the shaft work only in torsion, the crack didn't move. And it could well be that the crack is over the whole length. It's very hard to see, but it's more than half of the length. But it held for many years, so I suppose it's not a problem. We're now inside of the loco. This thing is a 4-speed diesel locomotive, and as you can see, it's a first class, very nice machine. And no, the whole line was never electric, always diesel and steam. And another very interesting question was of course also why, it's always a good question, why are these things imperial and not even imperial? It's a Whitworth threads. And because I didn't know, I asked some specialists, and they don't know either. And of course we talked a little bit about it. If you think that the metric system was introduced here in Belgium in 1820, but Belgium didn't exist yet. Belgium became independent 1830. But of course there's a period of transition, get used to things, and things are going really slowly. For example, the loco I showed you inside, this thing is built 99% in Belgium, but the engine is a 6-cylinder, 2-stroke GM diesel. So American made, which should be imperial Whitworth, but also the tradition from the train, from the railway, comes from the UK, from England. And that's why in Belgium the trains still today ride on the left side. Of course the cars drive on the right side of the road, but trains left. And so it could be that it's a little bit a tradition that is continued And while we are working all these things, several times we see that the systems metric and imperial and Whitworth are all mixed up. It's like the sizes of the shafts. Several times they are metric, round numbers in millimeters. And the threads and the bolt heads, they are Whitworth. But the real reason, we don't know. It's just a pain to find the right spanner every time. Some of you also commented about this part, that the bore here is egg-shaped, and why I didn't round it before making the new shaft. Well, the answer is very simple. I didn't want to change the original part, even if it's not 100% original. I don't want to touch it. Of course, it could work very well. And a detail I like very much in this rail car is the coal stove. That's cool. Hot, whatever. As you can see, there is still a lot of work to do here in our depot. For example, this is the one I'm working on the brakes, and it's not really ready to go. It needs a very good cleanup and replace some missing parts, like windows, for example. I think that it's important when you make videos about some kind of subject that you show in the video what you're talking about. If, for example, we are talking about screws to hold the rails in place, but you don't show them, here's one, it's a little bit pointless. But on the other side, I hope you understand that also it's not always possible. Here's an example. This part is of course the seat, and this is vertical, and here the part where you put your feet is missing. And this is the seat where we were working on. And then I couldn't film it because here, as you can see, the camera angle is complete crap. And I have hardly any place to put my feet below here to stand. And one day we urgently needed this rail car. Because as you can see, there's some bicycle storage in it. Because it was a reservation. People come, put their bicycles in here, and then we bring them uphill and they bike downhill. And up there on top, right here, you can hardly see it, but that is a seat in question that we had to throw together and put on it, because people, of course, they take pictures and they want complete rail cars. So video failure. A few videos ago I worked on drilling machines to drill holes in rails to be able to install these bolts in the fish plates, also drill holes to be able to install spacer bars. And there was a very interesting question from Mark, and he wanted to know how people were able to drill holes in rails before electricity or even gas engines became a thing. So the only option is by hand, right? And indeed, now this is a picture I stole from the internet, and it's an Indian machine, but the system is exactly the same. Of course, if it comes from India, it was surely made in England, and English they also exported to here in Belgium. So the principle of the machine is the same, and the tram people who are specialists in these things, they confirm. And a nice detail is that drilling one hole is about 1 hour of work.